Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, I have been really deep diving, kind of nerding out, let's be real, about leadership and culture strategy lately. And I want to talk about high potentials. All right, it's a buzzword in corporate America. It's called a HiPo. We're going to talk about what that means and specifically look at it from the lens of people leaders and, people who are responsible, your senior executives, for turning high potential talent into true leaders inside your organization. So I have a special guest who is perfect for simplifying this for us. His name is Shawn Storer, and he's a modern day Renaissance man whose career spans strategy consulting, academia, global HR leadership, and the arts. He's a conductor, a professor, a culture transformer, and a keynote speaker who leads with passion, creativity, and growth. He's got advanced degrees in music, certifications in HR and leadership. He's even been recognized amongst the top 50 leaders in learning and development and performed on stages, no big deal, Carnegie Hall to CNN. His work bridges business, talent, and creativity, always with the goal of helping others develop and thrive. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Shawn Storer. Hey, Shawn.
Wow. Hello. Thank you so much. That was incredible. I feel like...
Hey, that's you.
I want to hear that guy. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
We're thrilled to have you on the podcast. And like I said, the buzzword of the season is HiPo, means high potential.
Sure.
So let's say you are a people leader and you've got a team of great talent, but there's some real superstars that with a little bit of crafting and cultivating their talent, they could really be something. What's the one thing people leaders need to be super clear on when developing and growing their high potential talent?
Awesome way to start. So to simplify, that's why we're here, right? It's really one word, I think, and that is care. Shortest podcast ever. I'd like to thank our sponsors, your sponsors. No, really, it starts with care. And I would say care and try. And let me tell you a little bit more about that. But care is first, I think, and it's the most important ingredient really in this recipe. You have to care. Brene Brown said, "Clear is kind." And I think that part of that caring is just being super clear on intentionality. Who are you doing this for? Is this for you as a leader? Is this for the team member that you're trying to help? Is it for the organization? Or is it somewhere in between? And I really think whether it's individual growth plan or an organization-aligned growth plan, either way works. But I think where they intersect in the middle is the best. And if you can do it for both, that's great. And so, you like to start with why. Simon Sinek, of course, said start with why. And I still believe that's true. So does this align with your organization's values, with your mission, with your vision, with your EVP? Is it part of your strategic plan? Is it a new initiative, or are you doing this to check the box? There's a lot of companies, and we see the email signatures, we see the banners on LinkedIn. We're a great place to work. And I think, are you a great place to work because you push people to get that banner? Or are you a great place to work because when people's alarms go off, they're excited to go there? That's a great place to work. And so really helping people developing our cultures, that's what makes a great place to work. So why is it a top priority? Why do you care? You just have to care. It's not a box to check. And when you can help other people be better at life, you're thinking really higher level leadership at that point.
Shawn, something you said in that really sparked me, and I really want to put a pin on it and really deep dive. Something called an EVP, which is an employer value proposition. How does the employer present themselves as being the best place to work out of all of your options? There is nothing worse for a brand new hire who feels like they've got a bit of a bait and switch. They've been told one thing. The career website looks amazing, looks great to work there. Look at all those shiny, happy people. And then you get in on the inside and it's completely different. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Sure. It's a great point. The employer value proposition, it is the brand for the outside world. This is who we are. we're going to talk some about authenticity today. We have to.
Yes.
And I think, as individual leaders, we need to find authenticity, and we'll talk about that some. But the idea that a company has to have that too. Who are you authentically? And do your core values and your mission and your vision and your EVP, do those really tell people who you are? I used to do a talk, on the like HR circuit and learning development circuit called Core Values, Promise, or Propaganda. And I mean, that's a good splashy title, right?
Yeah.
You're the marketing expert. I'm just trying to live in your shadow here. But the idea that putting that out there for the world, is this really genuinely, authentically who you are? Or is that propaganda to try and just get people work here? Yeah. And I think post-pandemic world, I mean, this is late 2025. We're 5.5 years from the pandemic starting, right? We don't even say the word much anymore. But so much has changed in that time period where employees won't let you be inauthentic. Or if you are, they're going to go somewhere else because they have choices now. So I think EVP is crucial.
Right. And I think that the piece there is you as a people leader, your core values, the reason why you do the work you do has to align with the company's core values, or there's a misalignment there. Then it does become a transactional thing. Like, wow, why do I care about developing my high potential talent? Whatever. Yes. I'm just trying to get a paycheck and get by and not get laid off myself. But I think that that's a piece of the puzzle. The core values of the individual, the people leader, have to align with the company, because in the end, that's integrity, right? Doing the right thing when no one's looking, right?
Yeah, when the boss isn't looking. And I agree. And so I'm a big, when you meet people, they say, well, tell me about yourself. And usually people start with, well, I worked at this company, or I worked for this brand, or I had this position, or I went to school here. I don't start there. I start with my core values. So I'm glad you mentioned values. I think it's integral to who we are and authenticity. My personal values: passion, creativity, balance, growth, and quality. I know that about me. Everything I touch, everything I do is going to involve those values. And I can tell you how we got there, but that's what I know about myself. And then beyond that, my strengths. So if you look at your Clifton Strengths Finder, right? I love assessments. We're going to talk about some assessments too.
Yes.
But strategic, futuristic, positivity, activator, input. And I know those like the back of my hand now because I found the right words through assessments, but they describe me better than the words I could have chosen for myself. If you can find who you are as a leader, who you are as a person, and find a company that you align with their EVP, with who they really are, a genuine EVP, it's, there's that old phrase, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. That can be true. That can be true if you find that right alignment.
And then you become a better role model, I'd say, as well, because you are working in an authentic way to really rise the tides for all, right? That's what all of this is about. So the caring helps others succeed because you believe in the mission and the vision of the company from the jump.
Yeah, I agree. You're living those values because then you go beyond just the job.
Yeah.
If you really live these values and you really gel at a cellular level. Okay, off script, John Maxwell, great leader, said core values are the deeply held beliefs that authentically describe your soul.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty deep for whatever time you're listening to this. Maybe it's in your car, maybe it's on the way to work, maybe you're sitting and watching it, but think about that. It's not a stress ball. It's not a banner that we put up and say, oh, this is what we think. It's who you are on a cellular level. That's for sure. That's deep stuff.
For sure. So then how does somebody as a people leader really define high potential, quote unquote, beyond their performance reviews?
So, of course, you mentioned performance reviews. A lot of it starts there. Most performance reviews, most systems are going to have some correlation between performance and potential. So let's assume for our conversation, we've got a high performer. Now, we don't need to talk about what that means. On the potential side, what are we talking about potential? And I'm going to get a little in the leadership weeds here. I hope you don't mind.
Let's go. I'm in.
Can we talk for a week? I love this stuff. Leadership is kind of hard to define. We're not going to define it today. There's a lot of great definitions out there. And, at some point we start to kind of parrot those definitions. But leadership, we know, can be broken down into subcomponents like most things. And leadership is a set of traits, abilities, skills, behaviors, relationships, and influence processes. Okay, so it's 6 major things. Abilities and skills, you can argue, are similar. That's fine. But that's a great place to start this discussion today because, you can be born with some traits, charisma, intelligence, sociability, confidence, determination, fine. You either have those or you don't. Those are kind of hard to work on. You can change them a bit, but you have them or you don't. And I'm not saying leaders are born. That's not true. But leaders can flex their traits, right? What we're talking more about is skills. Skills, of course, can be developed. So in talent development, read any article by any publication for the future of work, and they're going to say there's a skills shortage across, multiple different types of industries. So when we're talking about identifying top talent, we're talking about skills. Emotional intelligence, not a new concept, but something we are coming to understand better. So I feel like I'm going to do a book report because I have a bunch of props set out here, but just some great stuff. Of course, you've seen this before,
yes.
Right? Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence. He wrote this book 30 years ago this year. This wasn't written today, but we're still talking about it like it's science fiction. It is amazing stuff. So working on someone's emotional intelligence, that's part of this HiPo. I'm not going to call it a soup. All the ingredients to go into it. So it's a kind of a long-winded way of saying high potential to me isn't just showing potential to take over your role in a succession plan. That's kind of box checking, important for the organization, but that's not it. It's showing promise beyond the next job to be a future emerging leader. It's combining all those things together and going above and beyond. At SMU, we have a great, I get to teach at SMU as adjunct professor and also in the executive education program. We have the catchphrase, world changers shaped here. And that's not a gimmick. I tell students all the time, you're going to change the world. You're going to shape it, and we're helping to shape you. And so really, I look at HiPo from an organization, similar to what I'm doing in the classroom with undergraduates. We're helping them be better at life. And so HiPos, it's about identifying them. And then, of course, we can get into assessments. You need assessments to help identify who your HiPos are going to be, how to get from here to there. But I think we can probably dig into that in a little bit too.
Yeah. One thing I want to point out in what you said there that I think needs to be said, say the quiet thing out loud, is when you are a people leader, how do you avoid bias in identifying your high potentials? Because, I've led many different types of teams and over many, many years, different organizations. And yes, as a people leader, you have rapport with people, certain people, and some you just don't. That doesn't negate the person who is a little bit more quiet than you or a little bit more outspoken than you that you don't really have rapport with. But man, they have great potential to, in this organization. How do you combat bias in this?
That's a great question. I think we could do a whole podcast on that too. There are certain biases. We talk about them a lot on the HR side, like even in performance management. So not just HiPo selection, which applies there too. Like if I work in a small organization and I see Mary, and Mary has a full-time job and she's doing a podcast and she's at Dallas HR events and she's doing all these things. She is an above and beyond emerging leader. I see that. I have a bias because I see her in action. I get to work close to her. There's a proximity bias there. She's done so many great things that I have a halo effect around her. She can do no wrong anymore. There's other biases like, the bias of recency. If she's done all those great things, but you know what, she said something to me at an event and I really didn't like that, everything she just did has been wiped out. There are so many different kind of biases that we can talk about. You, as a leader, you have to be aware of your own biases as much as possible. And I think what helps with that is assessment, is some outsight. We can self-awareness is a big piece of emotional intelligence. We talked about emotional intelligence a bit, but the idea that I can try and look at myself from the outside, but it's kind of hard to do. I actually need some outsight to help me. So assessments, I use the Hogan assessment extensively. That gives us great outsight because now you're looking at a person's reputation, not their identity. The audience's view, not the actor's view. And if people look at me as having those complications, well, then that's how I'm perceived. So that's something I can work on. But yeah, it's we're ever evolving for sure.
Yeah. And I think that that's the first step, is just being aware that there may be some bias at play, and checking that so that it is fair for all people on your team, that could be defined as a high potential. So let's talk about that. Assessments, I want to dive deep now and talk about the signals that could indicate that somebody is truly ready for the next level. So let's talk about Hogan first. Why do you love Hogan as an assessment tool?
Great. I love that. So Hogan is like, you've done a lot of assessments, I'm sure, right?
For
I
sure.
have, and this is not, I'm not trying to be carrot top with my props. These are my individual personal assessments. This is the folder I keep in my desk all the time. I've got Hogan on top, but predictive index and DISC and culture index and you name it. I take it, Enneagram, Strengths Finder. There's so many great ones. Hogan just, to me, is more in depth. It gives us three sort of components of a leader. It gives them, we can see the bright side of leadership, which is flexing into our strengths, our traits on a daily basis. That's what great leadership looks like when I'm at my best. We also have the dark side of leadership, which are, if I overuse my strengths, like I have strengths like I have 100th percentile sociability. I don't want to talk to people. I have to talk to people. It's in my DNA. 92nd. Yeah, same. You get to do this for a living, right? Like, this is great. 92nd percentile interpersonal sensitivity. I don't want to care what people think. I care so deeply about what people think, and I have to find the right words to use. I have to make sure that it lands the right way. That makes me a decent facilitator. I want to make sure that that thing lands, and I don't want to say the wrong thing for you. 100th percentile aesthetics. That's that I wear bow ties and pins, and I had to have the red headphones. I could, like all that stuff matters. The look and feel matters. That's who I am at my core. So that's all the inside. I'm sorry, that's all the bright side. That's who I am. The derailers are those things like if I overuse those, I can tell you right now, all those things, if I overuse them, if I'm bored or if I'm challenged or if I'm in a, despair, all the big D's, death, disaster, divorce, all those scary things in life. Yeah. That's when we tip into our derailers. I have high, colorful, imaginative, bold, and mischievous. Well, when I'm using those strengths to my advantage, that's great. I come up with creative ideas. When I'm bored or when I'm challenged, those things can get you fired. Those things can get you in trouble. So knowing that about yourself as a leader and about your HiPos is great. And then there's the inside, the values. What are those things that you care most about? How are you going to, and now we're talking about core values alignment. So Hogan for me is just the most in-depth version of that I've ever encountered.
Yeah. But I think, you're also saying before that, the signals are somebody that's just going above and beyond, that is not just a clock in, clock out kind of person, that are looking at opportunity, being a little bit brave and putting themselves out there, raising their hand for a stretch project, things like that as well, right?
That's how you really know. So yes, you can assess them. You can see, what are those natural characteristics that they have. Yeah. But when they raise their hand, for sure, that's exactly. Oh, and let me raise my hand. See if everything's. Let me do one of these for you, because I know it's all. Oh, it's not recognizing it today. I have all my things turned on, but okay. So when they do self-identify, when I teach this to undergraduates and executives, there's about 6 things we're looking for when we look for HiPos. One is a strong motivation to excel in pursuit of challenging goals. Okay, so, and yes, I'm reading these because these aren't, we'll simplify them, but they're complex categories. So the desire, the motivation to excel, that is ambition. That is adding those stretch goals that you mentioned. You can see if somebody has ambition or not. First car in the parking lot, last car in the parking lot. Yeah. That's how I grew up, right? Those times are changing, but that's how you got recognized. You raise your hand first for that project. How can I help?
Mm-hmm.
2 is humility. Humility to put group needs before personal needs. Now, we're talking about, I'm going to grab another prop, got all my things laid out here. You remember this oldie but goodie, good to
For sure.
great. It's still relevant. And he says, if I could just read one sentence, he says a level 5 leader is an individual who blends extreme personal humility with intense professional will. That's what these leaders, that's not a theory. That's the leaders that he studied what they had. So now we're talking about humility. Number 3 is insatiable curiosity to explore new ideas. That is the person in your room asking the questions. How does this work? I have high inquisitive, 86th percentile. I ask a lot of questions. I have to warn my friends and neighbors and people I meet, hey, I'm not writing a newspaper article for you. I just am curious. So having that curiosity about the world, that's somebody raising their hand.
And let's pause on that, because
please.
I think curiosity is so important in the workplace, because that's how you innovate. Asking
Yes.
simple questions like, help me understand how you got to this decision. It is not somebody who is being a challenger necessarily saying, gosh, that's a terrible idea. Why did you make that decision? Yeah. It's more of, help me understand the things I'm not seeing, the blind spots it's that curiosity that helps us innovate work processes, products, services, what we deliver to our customer as their experience, right?
Yeah, so good. And look, speaking of blind spots, as a question asker, I have been the person before who I asked too many questions and I perceived as the one challenging.
Sure.
That takes time and emotional maturity, emotional intelligence to understand. Again, outside, I can now tell a person, hey, I'm high inquisitive. I'm going to ask questions. I'm not challenging your leadership. I'm not challenging your direction. But that's happened a lot in my life where, well, why do we do it that way? Because we've always done it that way. Stop asking questions. That's the worst answer for me ever, because we can find a better way. I am an innovator. I am a creative person. So, yeah.
For sure. Yeah. All right, carry on.
Okay, perfect. So, keen insight into connections that most people overlook. So, of course, now we're talking about network. We're talking about collaboration. If you look at collaboration, really that's social awareness and social and relationship management in the EI constructs. And then the last one is strong engagement with work and with people. So, that's the fifth one. Strong engagement with work tasks and with people. So when we talk about engagement, again, I read all the SHRM articles. I read all the Gartner research that I can get my hands on. I'm lucky through different channels I get to see it. Hey, input is one of my strengths, right? I'm gonna collect all these things. I just love it. I have to. That's what we're talking about post-pandemic, is finding that you can call it emotional proximity. That's what Gartner called it.
Yep.
Where I feel like I'm seen. Where when we used to have the water cooler chat or the break room chat because we're just standing next to each other, that serendipitous collaboration. I think that's a Gartner term too. We've lost a lot of that. And so how do we re-engage that engagement? How do we recreate that? This is one of those ways to do that. And then the last one is determination to overcome obstacles. That's plain and simple. That's ambition, that's drive, that's desire to achieve. If you can find those 6 things, and by the way, you see them, it's evident. It's evident in their productivity. It's evident in their behaviors. It's evident in their skills development. All the things that we said leadership is before, it's evident in all those areas.
I love that you've broken it out in those 6 ways, because I think that really gives me a lot to kind of chew on of where am I, maybe it's not as much of a strength. Like, let's say I'm really big on curiosity, but maybe I'm not the most humble person you've ever met. This gives me, the individual, an opportunity to go, how do I really learn this skill and this, and develop it over the coming year, incorporate it into my own individual development plan, my own IDP as well, because I think that there's opportunity there as well, right?
I agree. And to know that, again, that's where assessments are very helpful. But we can sit down with a blank piece of paper and say, well, what are my strengths and what am I good at and what are my values? But if I get that outside to say, well, here's how you're being perceived. That's a different story, and it's a good look in the mirror. It's a
And
good looking mirror.
that leads me to think about like 360 interviews. Tell us a little bit more about how you have used those in the past.
So from a HiPos standpoint, or even from a performance management standpoint, I mean, if you look at a 360-degree review, so for your listeners who are unfamiliar with what 360 degrees is, I mean, it's not Tony Hawk on a skateboard. That might be a dated reference. That's a spin all the way around, right? If you look all the way around you, that's a 360-degree view. And so on the HR side, we use 360-degree reviews or performance evaluations to get every viewpoint of the candidate or of the employee. So we do a self-assessment.
Yep.
I have to type into the system, here's what I think I did. And I'm going to pat myself on the back because it's my chance to get a raise, right? That's pretty human nature. My supervisor is going to rate me, of course, because that's the person who probably most closely sees what I'm doing, what my work says. I'm going to have a peer review. So whether it's one or multiple peers, usually good to have a group of peers that are on the same essential hierarchical level. I mean, a director, a managing director, a VP, a coordinator, that kind of thing. These are people that I've worked with, right? That know what I've done. I might also have some outsider ratings. So probably not competitors, but do I have customers? Do I have vendors? Do I have partners? That say, yeah, Shawn did a great job at this, or he really lagged over here and we needed his help and he wasn't there. Getting that outside, again, is very important. And then you might have
like a cross-functional partner as well. So somebody who's maybe in a different department, doesn't work with you day to day, but has worked with you on a time-based project or launch or whatever, has some incredible insights for you as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that your supervisor might not know about. What's the inner workings, the daily mechanisms look like, right?
Yeah.
And then you might have subordinates. I don't love the term, but we know that's a hierarchy term, right? There are subordinates in a hierarchy. So you might have subordinates who report to you. I so hate that term. It's just
direct reports. Let's call them that.
Can I just open the jacket a little bit and just show you who I am? But I don't love it, but that's what we call them, right? That's yes, direct reports is great. And so your direct reports know how you are as a manager, as a leader, as a person who's helping to set the pace, helping to get the projects done.
Yeah. And so all of this information put together in one full assessment gets you an opportunity to shine a spotlight on maybe some of your blind spots, the parts that you thought, man, I'm really good at this. I'm so excellent at communication and I'm so excellent at pitching and storytelling. And, the majority of the people with the interviews back go, gosh, she's terrible. She drags on and on and on. Just get to the point, Mary. Like whatever it might be helps you get more insights to help you empower you, because data is power, I think, and helping you understand where the gaps are and what you need to develop next, which leads me to think about stretch assignments. We talked about it very, very briefly, but what are some smart stretch assignments that could accelerate growth? What are your thoughts there?
So I know this is the simplifiers. I tend to overcomplicate things sometimes. I'm trying not to do that. I know you want a straight answer, but here's how I really feel about this. I think, and look, I have a doctorate, but it's in music, so I can't write prescriptions, right? And so I genuinely try not to get too prescriptive if I don't know all the symptoms. Every company is going to have their own challenges, their own needs. The best advice here I can give is align them to the organization's needs. I mean, you and I both lived through a time, I'm sure, I long before you, but the idea that, well, HR has its own goals, or this department has its own goals. You can't have your own goals anymore. Your goals are the organization's goals.
Yes.
And if what you're doing is contributing, then you're doing the right thing. And if what you're doing, you can't see yourself or your team or your department or your continent or your division or your company in what you're supposed to be doing, then you're doing the wrong thing. So what are those stretch goals? Align them to the things that need to be done by the people who aren't doing them. And I think that's the best answer really I can give.
I think that's a solid answer, because I think that this is it. If you are somebody who wants to excel and grow your career inside of an organization, you are motivated yourself, right? You're more willing to raise your hand, but sometimes when you raise your hand, there is backlash, I think. For some organizations that I've been in on the inside, the person that raises the hand is like, oh God, you're sticking out again. You're the tall weed that needs to get cut. Like, it's you're not just playing along, and there's a risk there. But I think more importantly, let's talk about stretch assignments and how do we keep our HiPos engaged, but not burn them out. Because when you raise your hand, all of a sudden, what you thought was a very simple task force, let's say, turns into, hey, can you just manage this whole project? Turns into a lot of extra hours at work and pulling you away from your non-work life as well. So how do we as people leaders and senior executives, people who are building a strategy on employee experience, make sure that we're not burning our people out, but equally building that succession plan to get them ready for the next step in their career?
For the next thing. It's a great question. It depends on the individual. Yeah. I hope that's not a cop-out answer, but that's a big part of it. That's why getting to know your people is so important. I mentioned my sociability and a personal sensitivity, like I'm going to get to know people. And so I'm going to get to know, whether it's individual centered, whether it's organizational centered, I'm going to try and merge those things. What is it that you want to get out of this? I mentor through Dallas HR as well, and I mentor former students. And it's always, what are you trying to get out of this? Where do you want to go? What are your career goals? I'm not trying to turn people into HR people, but it's interesting. A lot of people turn into HR people after they take my class. They're like, I didn't even know that was a career path. So where are you trying to go? Being supportive of people. So, and that's very natural for me. But I also recognize I have high adjustment in Hogan, which means I don't always realize when other people are struggling because I might not be. And so that's good outsight for me to know that other people might not be naturally inclined to want to help people, want to care, want to ask those questions. So I'm going to say something that's maybe a little controversial. I don't know if you want some controversy.
Let's do it.
If you don't like this, send your hate mail to the Simplifiers hopefully it's not going to generate hate mail. But and maybe it's unexpected. I've never in my career seen a hypo burnout. I haven't seen it. Here's why. I'm there and we're there to support them. We're there to help them. Are they going to have challenges? Yes. Are they going to have struggles? Yes. Like we all do. We're all human beings. Really, we're humans being. We're humans being. And that can be hard, but if you choose the right people to be in the program, if you train them correctly, if you support them in the right way, if you help them regain their motivation when they lose it, that's big too. So I haven't seen a burnout, but okay, so here, book report time. Another great book, Influencer. I don't know if you've seen this one. This might be new. Yeah, you've seen this, great. So
I have, that's good.
The New Science of Leading Change. They talk, look, I can't, this might be a little semantics. I can't motivate you. Motivation's intrinsic. If you think about Maslow's hierarchy, it comes from within. But the idea is I can motivate you. I can inspire you. I can help you be better. And so they have 6 sources of motivation, which I think are phenomenal. And just high level, really quickly, personal, social, and structural, motivation or ability. Can I either help you love what you hate or help you do what you can't? Can I provide encouragement or provide assistance? Can I change your economy or can I change your space? So that's a really, really quick and dirty version of that. But the idea is if you've lost your motivation, me yelling at you, me throwing money at you can help to influence you. The motivation comes internally. What are you motivated by? Asking them that, having that real conversation. Mary, you look stressed out. You're getting burned out and I don't want you to tap out. What's happening? What can we do? Is the stretch assignment too much of a stretch? Be curious, move from certainty to curiosity. It's not, oh, Mary's overwhelmed. She can't do it. Let's give it to somebody else.
Yeah, she can't hack it.
Let's ask Mary how she feels. I mean, like, what a revolutionary concept.
I mean, it's sometimes you have to say the most simple things and it will click in our listeners' brains. You go, you know what? You're right. I haven't slowed down and asked those questions. I'm so glad that you pointed out that it really falls on the people leaders' shoulders to provide support. That's the key word. For me as a people leader, one of the best practices I've had for many, many years is I take one-on-one walk and talks once a month.
That's awesome.
They're very quick, 10, 15 minutes. We do a couple of laps inside the office, right? We get our steps in. But more importantly, the one question that I ask at the very end of that walk and talk, just to check in, how you doing, is what do you need more or less of from me? And that simple question is so powerful because that shows that I, as a people leader, am supportive of my direct reports, each individually, and they're given a safe space to kind of communicate, man, I am really pinched this week. In the next couple of weeks, my calendar looks like a rainbow hot mess. I need some help. I need some breathing room. I need some time to put my head down. And that's where we can work towards solution. Okay, great. You don't need to be in the office. Put your head down, work from home these next few days. Or, hey, let me take that meeting off of you, off of your shoulders, or let me take this off of your shoulders, or let me figure out more resources to provide for you to be able to do the work and do it well.
Yeah.
That is the magic key. You build strength, trust, psychological safety, and you allow your high potential to be able to vocalize when things are not perfect for them. Because I think a lot of high potentials tend to lean, I've seen, more towards the side of perfectionism. They don't want to show the chink in the armor that shows that maybe they're a little bit vulnerable and maybe they can't handle all of it. But if you are a supportive people leader who can show them that you're somebody who can take that feedback and remove the roadblocks for them, man, that's the power of a dynamic relationship between people leader and high potential, right?
You nailed it. And if I can sing your praises for a second, I mean, what you've just told us, I think, if you want to sit on the couch, let's psychoanalyze this. First of all, you told a story where you've already created psychological safety. So you mentioned that as a term, but for our listeners, your listeners, if we don't know what we're talking about, psychological safety is that idea that we can try things, we can ask questions, we can be curious, we can say things that might be wrong, the wrong answer, but we can do it in a safe environment where we're not fearing repercussions, retaliation, punishment for having those ideas. And that's a hard thing. It's not a hard thing to create. It's a thing that a lot of people don't create.
Yes.
Your story, you've already created that. So that existed before we enter the picture. And I think that's and there's so many tenets of psychological safety that touch on emotional intelligence as well. If you haven't created that space, so now I'm looking at you viewers and listeners, if you haven't created that space, if you start to do if you do a one-on-one walk and talk, which by the way, if we go back to influencer that we just talked about, you've changed their space and you've helped them do something they can't. So you're using two different sources of influence right there already. I love that. If you listeners haven't created that space and you do a one-on-one walk and talk, your direct report's going to look at you like you have three heads. The first time you do it, that doesn't mean don't do it. That means go do it right now today. That means stop this, hit pause on the podcast, come back and hear the rest, but go do that. Create that space because that's what your people are missing.
Yeah. Be the leader that you've always been looking for.
Oh, I love
That's the secret. Gosh, I feel like I could talk to you for hours on end, and I sadly have to wrap this conversation up.
Okay.
But for the listeners that are very curious about what Shawn is doing out in the world, make sure you go to the show notes. That's where you can find links to all the books, all the resources, everything that we've talked about today. You can find that at thesimplifiers.com. That's where you'll find Shawn's LinkedIn and his website, so you can get connected with him and ask more questions because he's a very open person and he'll be happy to receive connections from you and conversations. Also, Shawn has been so gracious to offer a discount on Hogan assessments and coaching just simply by contacting him. And he can also offer a discount on access to skill path training as well.
Sure.
So make sure to reach out. Again, you can find all of those links in our show notes at thesimplifiers.com. So Shawn, as we wrap up, there's a few questions I like to ask everyone that comes on the podcast. Here we go. Rapid fire session. Here it is. What's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
I've shared a lot of books today. That's the input part of me. One that I definitely think everybody should have on their shelf. And it's timely because the new edition is coming out. This is called Brave Leadership by Kimberly Davis. And if I could can I read a little sentence?
Yes, please.
Okay, so she says, and by the way, she's a dear friend, she's a professor, but just like I started my career in music, she started hers in the theater. So she learned her leadership lessons from the stage, different stage than my stage. She says, what it means to be brave at work today requires more of us than ever before, which can feel incredibly scary and uncomfortable. No longer can we compartmentalize who we are at work and who we are outside of work because who we are for real shines through. This is a book about authenticity and finding your purpose. And it's my favorite book. And I can't wait for the next edition. It's coming soon.
Love it. Oh, I will definitely look that book up. We're going to link that in the show notes so you guys can find it there, thesimplifiers.com. Also, I believe that gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what's one thing you're grateful for today?
Man, I overcomplicate the simplification. I'm grateful for being here, for talking to you. This is just a wonderful opportunity to talk about things that I'm passionate about, and I know you are too. So I appreciate that. The biggest thing I think I'm grateful for my wife. She is the coolest, smartest, most creative person I've ever met. My life story is about being in the right place at the right time, and she's a big part of that. We met at a stoplight, at a traffic light. I was just lucky to be in the right place at the right time. And she inspires me every day and encourages me. And she's my chief encourager. So
I'm
grateful for her.
Oh, so good. I also want to take a moment to shine a spotlight. I feel like this is such a good karma moment. Shine a spotlight on somebody you know, one person in your network that is just doing great things out in the world. Who would that person be? And who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
Well, I highly recommend for the podcast because I think what she does in life is she does help people simplify. So Libby Maglioglu, she is an assistant professor, adjunct professor at SMU, but she also has her own website. What she does, she simplifies communications, especially PowerPoints. So let me find her. Her website is called buildbetterslides.com. And when you talk about, how simple is that? Buildbetterslides.com. And when you talk about somebody who is a master communicator, she and I, we have the opportunity to partner in my undergraduate class. So I have her come in and talk about, because we have them present multiple different things, how to be better presenters, how to be have better executive presence, how to prepare, how to make PowerPoint slides, how to get your camera ready, all those kind of things. Phenomenal communicator.
Girl after my own heart there.
Absolutely.
We'll link her up in the show notes as well so you guys can find her, thesimplifiers.com. And again, this is where you can find the links to his website, his LinkedIn, and all the goodies that we talked about in today's conversation. So my final question for you today, Shawn, is this. And again, thank you so much. You're a wealth of knowledge. We're definitely going to have you back at the podcast soon. But someone somewhere is listening to us right now, and they're a people leader, and they got about a dozen direct reports, and they're sitting there thinking, I barely have enough time to eat lunch today, Shawn. Like, how in the world am I going to take care and nurture and develop all of these people who are looking to me when my boss is looking at me to get all this other stuff done? What's one thing you could whisper in their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
Care. We'll go back to where we started. So surprisingly, bookended podcast. Yeah. I think we're all distracted. Look at the Eisenhower matrix, right? If you look at what's important and what's urgent and what do we need to reply to. I left one full-time job and had 88,000 unread emails in my inbox alone. About another 10,000 sorted into different boxes because I would get 500 emails a day and you just can't keep up. And how are you going to train somebody? How are you going to help people grow? That's not how you should be spending your time. Yeah. What's most important, not just right now, what's not just urgent right now, how are you going to help your people grow and develop? If you want to have succession plans, if you want your department and your team to grow, you have to grow the people. They will grow the profits. They will grow the revenue. You have to invest your time in people. The best minute you can spend of your day is investing in your people.
Amen to that. Yeah. Shawn, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.